Yeah, so let people come and so I'll admit them parallelly. So thanks for joining, guys. Who have joined. So a quick introduction about the guest for today. We have Mr. Alberto, so who is an esteemed international master and a FIDE trainer. So he has an impressive track record, in the world of chess. So he has some notable achievements in the Spanish chess championships, and he's an absolute Spanish champion. So he has played chess for more than 20 years and has a coaching experience of more than 12, 15 years. So I'm happy to, have Alberto to the show, and thanks each and everyone who have joined this session. So over to you, Alberto. You can take it forward from here.
Great, many thanks. Thanks, Navin, for the introduction, and thanks to Chesslang to invite me, and it's a pleasure to stay with all of you. Today, yes, I want to share some tips. The most important for me for my academy, and if you consider useful, it's that could be great, and share the most important ones to help you as coaches. Okay, and I have prepared some concepts that I would like to talk about them. I would like to discuss them with you. If you want to ask me at any moment, you can do it. I will be reading the chat, and feel free to ask me all the questions that you've got. Great. First of all, I have prepared like 10 bullet points that are very important as a coach or for chess academies, that are the most interesting ones. Okay, I will be sharing a screen in several moments. I have divided these 10 points in methodology, the motivation, tactics and calculation skills, basic concepts, new games and end games, the psychology, the opening repertoire, the game analysis, the time pressure, food, physical activity and rest, and tournament preparation. I think these concepts are all the main ideas that as coaches we should work on them. Let's start with the methodology. The first of all is that being as a coach, we must have a methodology, no matter the methodology that you like, no matter the process that you use with your students, but we must have something. For example, I would like to start just quickly a bit of my website and a quick introduction. I have been playing for many years in Spain. Right now, we are teaching in many countries, especially children. We have been working with the US Chess Federation, preparing children in the World Chess Championship, and some of the students, for example, Bio, Momia, Pranab, have been working with us, improving from beyond 1500. Now is with 2 GM norms, very close of 2400. Omia was the world chess champion for the girls category under 10, improving from 1100. Now it's 2100 USCF, or Pranav improving from 1100 to 2200, getting the national master, and other students that have been progressing gradually. We are several coaches, and all of us, we work with the same methodology. No matter the coach that is training in the academy, we work with the same methodology. This one is the methodology that we use, but you can have your own methodology if it works. I'm going to explain you quickly our methodology because it's the methodology that is giving these results, and our students are progressing, and we must know how to duplicate, how to replicate these results. If you've got a students and you're getting good results, they are improving. You must have a methodology to replicate these results in other students, and this is how you are going to improve as an academy, as a coach. And for example, the structure that we've got is that mainly we've got lessons of 90 minutes, because more than 90 minutes usually is too heavy for children. After 1 hour, 1 hour and a half, they are very tired. Even if they are 6-7 years old, we adapt it to 60 minutes. And always we've got 3 parts. Every lesson is divided in 3 parts. A warm-up of tactic of 20-30 minutes, later a bit of theory, 30-40 minutes of theory, and at the end a bit of practice. Why do we do this? Because always the part of tactics is very important to help them to stay concentrated. If our students, we explain them theory directly, they are not prepared to think. They are not going to acquire the knowledge properly. Then it's very important to practice practice with some puzzles, because will help them to stay more concentrated. And then in the part of theory, they will acquire concepts faster. I don't know if you practice this in your lessons, or directly you explain only theory, or one day only tactics. Also, you can say it, but this way to do it is the methodology that we use. And at the moment that one student joins the academy, we know specifically the concepts and the lessons that they are going to have in the next probably 1 or 2 years. Obviously, there are some lessons that maybe they are customized and we must prepare them, but we've got all the concepts prepared, and we know exactly the concepts that they need to progress to reach to the next level. This is something very important, that if you haven't prepared it, if you haven't got it, it will be very, very recommended. And this is my own methodology. Even it's public, you can copy it if you haven't got it, or even design your own methodology, right? But you must have a roadmap, because if a student joins, depending in the rating, you must be able to know what are the concepts that they need. Especially the first 2 levels, beginner and intermediate, are focused in middle games, in end games, and the last one, it's focused in openings. We don't work theory until 1600, 1700. At the beginning, always we practice. The beginner level is focused much on tactics, many tactical patterns, very easy ones, maybe mating 1, mating 2, mating 3, and concepts of deflection, double attack, much about tactics, because it's the most important part to win a game at these levels. Later, in the intermediate one, we start working on especially pawn structures. If you see it, concepts like pass pawns, isolated pawn. What happened with the isolated pawn in the opening, in the middle game, in the end game? We explain examples, how to play with double pawns against them, and then they get many concepts, right? And this is how they progress. If every lesson they get one concept, after 1 year, they are acquiring many concepts, and this is very, very useful for them, right? Then the part of the methodology is, for me, one of the most important ones for being as a coach or an academy, right? One of the advantages that we've got, for example, training in Chesslang, is that at the beginning, I can load many puzzles quickly. For example, the first part of the lesson is about tactics, and I can load the puzzles in the first 10-15 minutes. We can practice 3, 4, 5 puzzles, and then later we change to 30. One of the advantages is that I must input the pieces, and working online is very good because I can work faster. I'm from Spain. Also, we are an academy that we train from many different parts of the world. Another important concept is the motivation. The motivation, because when we are learning chess, sometimes it will be hard. It will be hard. We will be studying for many hours, and even sometimes we can lose games. We can make blunders. It's typical. In our academy, especially, we try to motivate the students. We try to, even if they are not playing well, if they are making many blunders, I trust in the words, in the motivation as an option to help them to grow. Okay, instead of solve them or telling them that they mustn't do this, and obviously we must see and fix the mistakes, but it's important. Sometimes they need a bit of support. Sometimes they don't play it bad. Sometimes they haven't got confidence, and sometimes it's this. Sometimes with good words we can change much the how a student can play and play much better in the tournaments. Then especially this is very important when we are working with children, when we are working with people who are starting in chess. For example, it's very typical to feel frustration when we are losing our first games. Some kids are crying, and we must support them and explain them that they will have many games to win them, to recover them. Are all of these concepts clear? Are you following it well? I think it's very important for as a coaches to support our students. Tactics and calculation. It's very important to the difference of tactic and calculation, right? Tactic will be like the easy puzzles that we can, for example, mate in 1, mate in 2, right? Tactics will be the exercises that we can solve quickly. Okay, for example, we are practicing one exercise that's let's say something like this. We've got one exercise, and then we know that there is mate in 3, or that in 3 moves we are winning material. Then here in this kind of exercises we are working the tactics, something intermediate, something that you calculated and you see it quickly. The tactics is very important in the beginner level, especially when we are starting. Maybe the 90% of the games are decided on tactics in the lower levels. Okay. What is the difference with calculation? For example, if tactics, we are talking that it's a combination, a quick combination of 2 or 3 moves, like knight b4, pawn takes, queen g6, and now when the king moves is mate in 3, right? For example, the calculation will be different. The calculation will be one position that maybe it's not mate, okay, or we are not winning anything, but we must try to guess what is going to happen, right? For example, we can have a normal position. I'm going to invent it. Maybe, okay, the Ferratello attack, right? Something like that. And then we must calculate what happens in this kind of positions. For example, we must guess if the best one is knight xd5 or knight a5. And then when we are choosing different variations, maybe with knight a5, it's the valuation is equal. With knight xd5, maybe it's clear advantage for white. The calculation is very important in the higher levels, in the most advanced ones. Why? Because the difference is the depth. When we are solving tactics, we know that there is a result that we are winning material, that we are going to get checkmate. But in calculation is different. For example, maybe here we've got 3 candidate moves, 3 options, and the evaluation of each variation is completely different. And we must try, in addition, calculate the possible moves and assign an evaluation, right? For example, maybe knight xd5 is, let's say, dubious, knight d4 very bad, knight a5 is good. And also we must assign and we must compare, because maybe there are 2 options that can be very similar and both are good, but sure that there is one that is slightly better than the other. And this is the complicated part. For example, a typical mistake is to think that the strong grandmasters, strong top players calculate many moves more than the beginners. It's true, but the main difference is that they evaluate better. For example, if we've got 3 candidate moves in this position for black, maybe for a GM, they have discarded these 2 moves quickly, and they only will play knight a5, right? They evaluate faster and better the positions, okay? If after knight a5, we don't know the valuation of the position, strong players, they can assign it faster and better. Then tactics is especially important in lower levels. As a coach, we must practice many patterns, because they will recognize the students will recognize different patterns. And in higher levels, we must work also the calculation. Not only tactics, the calculation means one position that we could have in our games, that it's not directly that we are winning a piece, we are not having checkmate. It's one position that's, okay, after this trade, what is the valuation? For example, knight xd5. Is it equal? Is it clear advantage for white? Are we winning? Okay, and this is the difference of calculation and tactics, and depending in the level that the student is, we must focus more on tactics or calculation. The basic concepts. For me, this is one of the critical things, and when I'm talking with students, some of them they have studied for many months openings, and they've got a lower intermediate level. When the student is starting in chess, they should forget all about openings. They must work basic concepts. Basic concepts, we are talking about concepts like bishop versus knight, and not only the main ideas. The bishop is good for open positions, the knight is good for close one. Obviously, we know that. Also, study these positions deeper. For example, should we play with symmetrical pawn structures or not symmetrical ones if we've got the bishop? Or what happens if we've got the knight? Or what happens in the endgames? What happens if we've got pawns only in one side? What happens? These are the concepts that we must work them and we must understand them perfectly. Or for example, the endgames. In the endgames, if you probably the endgames are played with time pressure. We haven't got time to think in them. If you've got a minimum doubt, it means that you don't know it. Or you know it or you don't know it, because you are going to play this thing the endgames without time. It's very important to know them perfectly. Then sometimes I see many students that they are not progressing because they are investing many hours in openings, they are reading many books, but later they have a lack of knowledge of typical pawn structures, about typical ideas about openings. It doesn't mean that we mustn't work on openings, but we must work them differently. At the beginning, we must work about the concept of center, initiative, examples about classical games that they show quite well the problems of the development of moving the queen several times. This is instructive, but we mustn't work on openings. And this is a typical mistake that many coaches have, or many students practice, and it's important to fix it. Nice. I don't know if have you got any question about the concepts that they are appearing? Also, you can type it in the chat and I will answer them. Nice. Another important concept will be the psychology. Many players have had problems with the psychology in the last years. We are talking more about psychology in chess, but it's something that is being worked in the last years, not before. And now every detail is important. For example, people who are starting, usually, especially with kids, they don't, or they cry, or maybe they feel much pressure due to the parents. At the end, they are children. We must, they must practice chess because they enjoy it. They mustn't feel pressure. We must support them. We must motivate them, right? We must understand them that they can lose a game, that they can play quite well, and with one mistake they can lose the game, right? And it's something important that if they don't fix it, could create bigger problems. The problem of the psychology is not only for chess players that are starting, also even for IEMs, GMs. I have seen that strong GMs have had problems with the psychology. Why? Especially there is one case that we are playing a tournament, we lose a game, especially a game that we were won, we know it, and then we are destroyed, right? Have you felt this? It's something normal, right? And then maybe we have been playing in the morning and we've got a game in the afternoon. How are we going to play the game in the afternoon? Many players have had problems to play well the game of the afternoon, because psychologically they are thinking in the game that they have lost in the morning, right? Then we must be prepared for that. We have lost. We were completely won. The best way to solve this, to fix it, is try to analyze with an engine what was the way to win, and forget the game in the tournament. Later, we can analyze the game deeper, but you must be concentrated for the next round. And it's something that it's a complicated task, right? For many GMs, they were having a good tournament. They lost, making a big blunder, and they have had problems in the next rounds. That they were playing a very good tournament. They lose one game that were completely won. The next one they lost because they are thinking in the previous one, and even the next one they lose because after losing 2 games, they are not concentrated, are out of the tournament, and one mistake. With one mistake, we get 3 losses, right? Then this part is very important. Also about the draws. Maybe there is one moment, especially when we reach to 1900 or 2000, when the students reach to this level, to continue improving the rating, we must play well all the game. Usually the opponents haven't got tactical blunders. Win a game is harder. And it's very typical to start to offering draw, start getting many draws, because we see that the opponent is not having is not playing any mistake, and instead of fighting the game, we prefer to play solid and get draw in 20-25 moves. And this is a problem, because when we are better, we are going to get draw. And when we are worse, the opponent is going to try to win us, right? And this is something that we work much in, for example, in the academy. It's a very common mistake, okay? A good recipe against this is to not offer draw, to not accept any draw, to talk with the student, to not to get the commitment of not offer draw, not accept any draw, and fight the game until the end. They will get confidence. They will get better results in the long term, and it's something very important. It's a very common mistake in psychology, in chess. The opening repertoire. Okay, we have been talking that at the beginning we shouldn't work the opening repertoire. We must study the typical concepts, right? But there is one moment that we must start studying the opening repertoire. How should we study, or how should we prepare a repertoire? In my experience, we must start from basic openings, and later something gradually. Maybe when we've got a 1400, 1500, we can work with the schemes. It's not bad. Openings that we can learn in 2, maximum 3 lessons, not more, or even 2 lessons, because the lessons must be used to work on middle games or end games, right? And when we reach to a good level, we must start studying main lines, okay? If I was telling that at the beginning, study a theoretical line, I'm referring main lines to the openings that top players are practicing right now. For example, I'm talking about e4 main lines. For main lines could be e4, e5 for black, e4, c5. These are the 2 lines that are being played more. Or with white, e4 or d4, and some of the main lines with c4, right? d4, c4, or d4, knight f6, c4, right? Doesn't mean that, for example, side lines like the peer are not playable. They are playable, but obviously they are in another level, because they for example, at the beginning you are giving the space, you need to know them quite well, and even they require much effort to know them perfectly. Then when we are starting, maybe even secondary lines or scams, to not invest time studying openings can be useful. Even some London system could be played, even some Italian, that it can be very basic, right? The development is basic, and here we mustn't know theory. This kind of openings are useful in an intermediate level because we can use the time of the lessons for concepts, right? Nil games and endgames. In a higher level, we must study theory seriously, and theory seriously is the main lines of E4, E5, maybe the Spanish, maybe we can learn with black some main line. For example, against D4, some info Indian defense can be useful. Why? Because right now there are many online databases, people can prepare fast. And if you play that sideline, you're going to suffer much. It's very easy to prepare right now. And another way to understand the opening repertoire is studying different lines, different openings to be more unpredictable. Okay. Another idea working the repertoire is that we can learn, for example, how to play E5 positions and C5 positions, both. Why? Because if you know the classical positions of E4, E5 and the classical positions of E4, C5, the student is going to acquire much experience in many different Nil games, okay? For example, with many students, we like to learn the Berlin defense with black, knowing that it can be a drawish opening. But the advantage is that it's very instructive. Why? Because in the main line, but it's this one, we are practicing endgames, right? The Spanish opening is played in many games. Is the opening that is being played more frequently with white, with E4. Then, for example, thinking in the instructive part as a coach, if we learn the Berlin defense and our students practice the Berlin, they are going to be forced to play many endgames. And this is something very instructive for them, right? Do you practice similar techniques when you are teaching in your academies? I think it's something that even my old coaches practice with me was very useful, and also we use it with our students.
Hello, sir. Hello.
Also,
Hello.
yes,
Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, this is Sangeeta. I would like to know how to make a opening repertoire using Chessbase. Can you show me how to do that?
A repertoire using Chessbase,
Yes, sir.
especially about levels. The most important part will be depending on the level of the student, right? First,
Say, for example, the student is around 1,500 or something. So I would like to make a opening repertoire for French defense. So how to create that?
Yeah, usually we work with when I'm talking about what is the most famous opening, or or how to work openings, I like to talk about what are the openings that are more used by top players. Then, for example, now it's very easy to check what in online databases. You can see what are the moves that have been played more in one position. And for example, use the engines in openings. It's something that I don't recommend. It's better to follow the moves that have been played more in one position. For example, you can get one online database, or one database can be from ChessBase or can be from other online databases, and follow the line that is being played more, that has got more games, the move that has been played in more games. And usually is the best way to play these openings. Then you can follow the theory using that. Okay.
And how to choose the openings for the kids? Usually, I struggle with the opening part only. Like which opening we have to give for some particular students. Like should we have to teach commonly the e4 king pawn openings, or we can choose, or we have to leave the decision to the kid how to choose that?
Okay.
Depends on the kid.
Yeah, that's an interesting question. First of all, at the level that you are telling me, I will be focused for example, in working on meal games and end games. In many cases, we force the students to learn the concepts that we want to explain them, because they don't know the concepts that they need. When you go to a doctor, you don't choose the medicine that you need, right? It's the specialist who gives you the medicine. In this case, it's the same. For example, with 1000 of radian, probably they need to work more on meal games, on in games, or in openings they just work on scams. What is the other factors? Sometimes probably we know some openings better than others, right? Then as a coach, obviously we can train or we can control it, we can teach every opening, but sure that we are specialists more in some openings than others. Then also we must be honest with the students and explain them that, okay, maybe these ones we control them better, and also can be more instructive for the students. What is the best for the students? E4, D4, C4. Some students are very tactical, other students are very strategical, and maybe we can think that a tactical opening can be good for a tactical player, right? This is a common question. In the academy, sometimes we do the opposite. Why? We know that the player or the student is very good in tactics, and we teach them strategical openings to complement the profile of the student. He's going to be more complete if he improves strategically, and in addition continue improving on tactics, that only be very good on tactics, because if not, they will be very irregular. Then talking in openings, no matter the opening that you teach, if you like more E4 or D4, for example, it's more important if they are starting work, don't use time on openings. If they are in higher levels, the openings are more important. Start working with main lines, not scams. For example, the London system can be very basic and it's an easy scam, maybe for beginners, but in a higher level, probably doesn't work well. We must play more theoretical to get advantage in this part of the games.
Sir, I have a question. Can I ask?
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. At what rating strength should we start teaching the main line? At what rating level?
This is a reference, but for example, usually we work that around 1700, 1600, something like that.
And students ranging from rating 1000 and below. So teaching them just the basic E4, E5 and the Italian basic opening, is that enough or should we teach them more?
Directly at those levels, we don't teach theory. We don't teach openings. The recommendation is, for example, when they are starting, when they are 1100 of rating, they only had some hours per month to study chess. Invest those hours in meal games and end games. Why? We can think that, for example, if they are going to if they are going to play the Italian in several games, we should study the Italian. And this is a typical mistake, or we should study openings, right? Why? Because when they reach to the middle game and end games and they've got big blunders, they are going to lose all the games, right?
Right.
Instead of that, if we study middle games and we study end games, although they are not going to reach to those specific end games or those specific middle games, but there is a transversal knowledge where they get where they get concepts that can be useful to play well the middle games and end games in general. Then they will win more games, even if they get a bad opening, even if they haven't played theoretically. In the openings, they are not going to lose the game. The games are decided on millions and end games, and our time is very limited. When we've got 1100 or 1000, we've got some hours per month. We must invest them in millions and end games. My recommendation is, for example, will be directly don't study openings, and if they are going to play some tournament, they must learn something, just something basic, development, examples about how to develop the pieces, the center, and ensure that they will not have problems on that.
Okay, thank you for your advice.
Great. Just the last 3 points. Games analysis. The games analysis, it's weird to say that, but all of you know that it's useful, but it is especially useful for advanced players. It's not useful for beginners. Why? Because the beginners, they need to work on middle games, on end games, rook and pawn end games, Lucina, Philidor. They need to learn many concepts. We know their mistakes. They need to know many typical pawn structures. We know their mistakes. When is it useful? The games analysis is especially useful when we don't know what are our mistakes, when the mistakes are details, when we must focus more the trainings on tactics, when we must focus the trainings on strategy, right? Then it's especially effective in intermediate and advanced players from 1600, 1700 or more, because there maybe the training has been imbalanced. They've got irregular concepts, and then we don't know exactly what are our mistakes, and maybe we analyzing the games, we can detect faster our problems, right? The time pressure, this is something it's another typical problem. Sometimes we lose a game, and I heard that the student says, I miss a piece, I made a blunder and I lost, right? The problem was the tactic. And when later we see how was the time management, the main problem is this. Even grandmasters, even Carlsen, Caruana, Wesley, so Nakamura, they make big blunders when they've got time pressure. Obviously, we are worse players, we are not top players, and we are going to have more mistakes in the time pressure. Then it's very important control the time management, and sometimes the mistake is not connected with tactics, not connected with a strategy. Obviously, the time management, a bad time management, the time pressure makes that we play bad, we play worse, and we can have some problem in strategy or tactics. But the main mistake can be this. It's something that we must consider. I recommend Mars the games of 3+2 blitz games. Why? To practice. In general, it's very useful for all the problems. Bullet is not recommended because we get bad habits. I wouldn't recommend bullets to the students. Sometimes we have done it, but are very specific cases. Usually we get bad habits and it's not good. Longer times also is bad because they must invest more time to get a good amount of games. For example, standard games, 15 minutes games, sometimes they don't use the time properly, or they only can play a few games. Then the blitz games are very useful to practice openings, to work the time pressure. Very, very interesting time control. Another concept was very useful for me when I got my last IM norm is this. Obviously, this is a detail when we are working with students that maybe they are fighting for IM norms. Food, physical activity, and rest. It's very important to eat properly before the round, before the game. For example, avoiding sugar, coffee, something that can give you much energy at one point, but later you feel destroyed, right? And in the critical moment of the game, we haven't got energy. It's very important to control these factors, physical activity and rest. Also, if we don't sleep well, or we haven't slept 7 to 8 hours, it's complicated to play well in the tournament. Affects maths, and especially in top level games when we are playing against strong players. These 3 factors are very, very important. Also, now if you see the top players, they are very young, they practice sports. Anand was suggesting that was having a gym for 2 hours per day, and it's very important. And the last idea is the tournament's preparation. When we are going to prepare our tournament, we must select well the tournament that we are going to play. If we must play tournaments of double round, or if we should play tournaments of one round per day. For example, for younger players, tournaments of double rounds are perfect. If we are adults, probably tournaments of one day, one round per day will be better. Also, be careful with the preparations, because our games are now in our profiles, in chess.com profiles. Leeches can be used to prepare against you, And this is something that we must consider, that our opponents have got more time to prepare. And it's something that, especially when we are playing important tournaments, championships, World Chess Championship, World Chess Cadets, we must consider all of these factors. Nice.
I think that's great, Alberto. Thanks for your wonderful presentation that we've got. I think everybody enjoyed the presentation. So if you guys have any questions, you can post it. Can we see you guys? I know that it's late in India. I can understand, but can I see you guys if I can? Can the cameras be on for some time so that, hey, hi sir, Palani sir, how are you? I think you're doing great.
I'm good, Naveen. Thank you, Alberto. That was very impressive.
Hey, good to see you, everyone. So thanks. So we'll be doing more such sessions regularly with different IMs and GMs from now on. So you can keep on adding your friends, maybe your peers to the group that we have. And I'll keep you posted, and I'll share this recording with you people once it is with us. We'll have it in some cloud, and we'll share it with you. Thanks for taking your time, guys, and thanks, Alberto. It was great. I think the people enjoyed it, and hope we'll meet soon, and we'll connect back. Thank you.
Many thanks. I hope you like it. See
Bye.
you.